Why can't I wear a monocle? Oh. Will it stay long enough to give the appearance of... No. Fine. All right. I'm dealing with my disappointment. I'm almost over it.
Well, if that's the case.
So supportive. Get you a man that gets you a monocle and then make fun of you. Your Opinion Stinks opens the conversation on a hot button business topic.
And flips it on its head.
Hosted by a wellness coach
And a business coach.
We break down conventional business
While building entrepreneurs up for success. Who will you agree with?
Welcome to Your Opinion Stinks. I'm Tanisha.
And I'm Tim. Thank you for being a part of this whole thing of whose opinion is better than who's ever's and not and all that other type of stuff. You're on YouTube. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the alert button. You're on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Go ahead, subscribe there too. And yeah, what are we talking about?
Oh, we have some squirrel business to resolve very quickly. If you're just joining us, I'm very excited about the squirrels that live in our neighborhood. I tried to feed them occasionally. We set out a brick of corn and other oats and things that it seemed like they were not liking. But then today,
The miracle happened.
I was about to report to y'all, I don't think this brick is working. We got to return the bricks. It was raining. It was turning into corn porridge. They still didn't even like the corn porridge. I was just very concerned. And then today, I came out and saw a little squirrel perched up on the bowl, nibbling. It was adorable. It's like, Tim, because you got to be careful, because if we make any sudden movements, they see us and spooks them.
So it appears we have at least one squirrel visitor.
Yes.
And I guess we'll have to report later on, because even though this corn experiment has been challenged because of the rain we've been experiencing, we at least know it works.
Yes.
So we're going to try to go for what we had before and compare notes.
Oh, really? The chunky corn?
No, it wasn't corn.
Thing?
No, it was
it was a brick,
it
was all chunks of corn and things. That's what made a mess.
It made a big mess, but they came.
They did like it. Even the birds liked that one.
Yeah. So, we'll.
I don't know if I want to go
see.
back to that. If there are any major developments, we will let you know. Because I know the squirrel updates are very important to you and your business.
Yeah.
All right, update number 2. I got a monocle, y'all. It's around my neck, but I haven't put it on yet. Tim got me a monocle. Okay, I'm gonna put it on.
It's not even gonna work. I already know it.
Why? It's not gonna work.
Because your eye pokes out too far.
I got a big old eye.
You got no brow.
Let me put it on this side. Ooh.
It's not gonna work. I told you it's not gonna work.
I don't think it's working. Oh no, my
eyes
eyes
crush
closed.
Your eye. Trying to get this thing to work.
I can't.
You have no brow.
But is there a convex monocle?
No.
Oh man.
So it looks like we're going for either an opera glass or a half monocle.
I need some opera glasses. Let's go with that next time.
Okay, so check us back in a week or so, and hopefully we should have it in time.
It's so cute too.
Oh, let's save it for something. Maybe you could wear it for a fancy party.
I can't wear it for a fancy party.
Well,
if I wear it around my neck, they'll be like, "Ooh, what's that for?" I'm like, "It's a monocle."
Yeah, you just do like this.
And I go like this.
Yeah.
But then they start asking questions like, oh, why'd you get the monocle? How does it help you? I'm like, it doesn't.
Why are you putting all this extra like you know it's going to happen?
I do know, because that's what I would ask. I would be immediately intrigued by the monocle. I'd be immediately intrigued by the monocle. And start asking questions. Oh. Man. Is this why they fell out of fashion?
Human evolution. No, there's people with brows that could definitely rock a monocle. You just don't happen to have one.
This is disappointing.
The more you know.
Boom, 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 boom. I guess I need opera glasses. I was going to use it for our definition today and everything.
You still use it. Just
no, I don't want to hold it. It's not real. It's not working. Yes, I'm ready. Don't give me that look like, ugh, gross. Are we moving on? Yes, we're moving on.
I didn't say anything.
You didn't have to. I saw it in your face. So y'all ready to talk about our topic of the day? Tim Dings, yes. Today we're talking about the customer is always right.
Nope.
Tim says no. Oh, I'll give a definition. Sans monocle. Sans is without, right? Sans serif without serif. Sans monocle. Sans monocle. I'll give. This definition is from Wikipedia. Are you ready? Tim nods yes.
Hi.
The customer is always right is a motto or slogan which exhorts service staff to give a high priority to customer satisfaction. It was popularized by pioneering and successful retailers such as Henry Gordon Selfridge, John Wanamaker, and Marshall Field. They advocated that customer complaints should be treated seriously so that customers do not feel cheated or deceived. This attitude was novel and influential when misrepresentation was rife, and caveat emptor, let the buyer beware, was a common legal maxim.
A lot of Latin.
Caveat emptor.
Sound like a spell out of Harry Potter.
That
already tells you it's
Can you
bad
imagine
business.
Harry Potter? Caveat emptor. I was like, what? I don't know. Beware what? I don't know. Oh, I think he lost it.
You hit somebody on the head with the wand.
So the customer's always right. How do you feel about the customer always being right for us entrepreneurs trying to sell our wares and services?
In the words of the great Mr. Horse from Ren and Stimpy. No, sir, I don't like it. Got her.
That made me cough.
Okay. There was a time where humans were perceived to be more honest.
Oh, I thought you were going to say gullible.
No. No.
Oh, you mean trustworthy.
Trustworthy.
Okay.
And people would really work on the whole thing of being upstanding in their wares, making sure that they lasted, made sure it met the customer's needs. And of course, if they sold them something like the whole door-to-door salesman, vacuum seller person, they wanted to make sure they sold them quality. And in that, they wanted to ensure that they treated them with this high level of quality and respect. And so the customer was always right.
I don't know that that's
Okay.
okay.
All right,
I see by the smile on your face that you totally just made that up.
Not totally. I fluffed some of it.
Because I don't think
here,
that's how it was.
no, but what I'm really getting to is there was a time and place where people had a bit more. There was an expectation that whatever you bought, the goods that you were bought, you were backing it. You were standing firm by it because it was a quality thing. It was the best of the best, at least for whatever it is. Like if you sold a refrigerator or a television or whatever, and you wanted to make sure you upheld it on the end where the customer was completely satisfied with the purchase.
I don't think. Go ahead. You're not.
Over time, the expectations of customers have changed, and the adaptation of the idea that the customer is always right has given people the perceived privilege to say that anything that I feel is right, even when they're wrong. Mm-hmm. I think over time that's changed.
Okay. First of all, let me say I don't believe myself to be an expert on the evolution of
Buying purchases,
consumerism
buying habits.
and capitalism and consumer consciousness and rights and responsibilities over time. With that said, my impression is a little different. My impression is in early days,
when you were selling horses,
people were like, hey, that person makes that thing. They're good at it. Can I have some? And they're like, sure. And then they exchange it, they barter, and they sell it. And then they're like, there's a market for this. And then they start selling it, and everyone's happy. And then over time, people, perhaps whose resources are very thin, and they have very, to them, justified reasons, and others maybe just for less ethical reasons, less understandable reasons, start taking advantage of people. And like, hey, this bottle of alcohol, if I just stick a label on it and say it's a tonic that'll help you feel better in all things in your life, and I sell it for $20, even though it costs me 50 cents to get it, a nickel. Then let's do this thing. And make all the monies. And so then people were making all the monies. And then eventually the buyer beware sentiment happened. Like, okay, there are these people out here just selling tonic that's not tonic. You better buyer beware. Vitamita Vegemin ain't going to help you. Vitamita
like no one, like anyone's going to understand that reference.
I Love Lucy people will understand that reference.
You just had to say just now to make sure people knew
Hello,
what it was.
I'm your Vitamita Vegifactor. Are you tired, run down, listless? Do you pop out of parties?
Okay,
Are you unpopular?
All right, so...
Well, the answer to all your problems is in this little bottle.
We're saying the same thing.
Vitamita Vegemin.
So now that we're...
Contains vitamins, meat, vegetables, and minerals. With Vitamita Vegemin,
okay,
you can spoon your way to
health. All right, whatever. So, with the whole thing of the customer being right at every single turn has made it really difficult for the entrepreneur to keep up the expectations of customer service because they're always under threat. And I think that the notion that the customer is always right needs to be modified. This is something that I was talking about earlier with you, that I come from the perspective, and this comes from Eastern culture, that customers are gods. And what that basically comes from is the ideal that the customer helps you to live your life by blessing you with funds for your goods and services. So you do treat them with a level of honor. But I then also add to that customers are not always right, because there are times where you provide great service, a great product, and someone tries to manipulate the system to work in their favor, whether it's through the review system, whether it's through third-party merchants like PayPal, all the PayPal disputes that I've been through. It's just been crazy. And a lot of my cohorts. So I don't feel it works anymore.
Yes, you make an interesting point, because fast forward past Vitamita-Vegemin and the tonics of old to now, the consumer has changed.
Yep.
And the consumer, depending on what you're talking about, might be much more informed, much more sales resistant. And in other cases, you still need to educate the consumer and still make it past their sales resistance. And you have the benefit of years and years of research on how to leverage humans' behaviors and preferences and biases and buying habits. So you know how to leverage, emotional decisions.
NLP. You know how to use persuasive techniques.
Yes.
Yeah.
NLP's debatable, but yes, those persuasive techniques and all of that marketing research. And funny you should mention Eastern culture, because when we talked about this briefly earlier and you mentioned that, I had just found this article called "A Global View of the Customer is Always Right." And it does run down a few, it talks about,
Hey, David Ogilvy.
Well, the article is from Blake Morgan.
Yeah, just David Ogilvy's like a god in my space because of his book on advertising.
Yes,
which is a very expensive book if any of you try to get it. It's yeah, but it's gold.
It's referencing a book called Confessions of an Advertising Man. And it takes a quote from David Ogilvy that says, "The customer is not a moron. She's your wife."
Yeah, that's an Ogilvy thing.
She's your wife.
Yeah.
What is that? My wife. So it says, in the 1950s and 60s, many brands treated customers like they lacked brain cells and used loud and obnoxious voices and obviously exaggerated print. And Ogilvy wanted to point out that companies and advertisers needed to connect with customers and treat them intelligently.
Yep. He's pretty much the godfather of a lot of internet marketing.
And this article goes on to talk about, the customer is always right in other countries and how that is expressed. And so, like you mentioned, the Japanese have a model. I won't try to say it because I'd probably mess it up.
That's probably cover my head. There we go. Some room. There you go.
Duck.
Because that's a long phrase.
Yeah.
Right.
I could make it small. Okay. Right. So has translations in other languages as well. So there's a German version that's "The Customer is King." There's a Spanish version and an Italian version that both translate to "The customer always has a reason." And there's a Swiss version from Ritz-Carlton dude. Means "The customer is never wrong." So in last week's episode, we were talking about always be closing. For always be closing, there seemed to be a very general consensus somewhat that at its core, maybe that's a flawed concept that at least needs to be tweaked to be usable.
It needs to be modified.
This one, I think, has been more resistant to that, probably. Correct me if you think I'm wrong about this.
Okay.
That there's still something to this. Like, the customer is always right. I think at its core, we generally accept that companies should not openly criticize or berate or yell back at their clients and customers, even if the client and customer is wrong. You still need to be diplomatic. You still need to be, polite at least to a degree. And that has contributed to it being a more lasting concept, even though it's flawed.
I would vote for having it modified to say the customer deserves great service. That's nothing to do with them being absolute.
Absolutely right. And that's really arguably that gets back to the original intention of that statement, because even the people who popularized that, my understanding is they weren't saying the customer is right 100% of the time. They were making the point that you need to prioritize customer satisfaction.
When it comes to there's a fly in my soup, yes, let me take care of that. Yes, let me bring you another bowl, whatever. It's not, this tastes funny. Something must be wrong with it. Fix it. Because, it could be that there might be that. And, you provide great service, But if it's something that's blatant, like you see them, throwing dirt in soup, and all of a sudden now it tastes wrong.
And now it tastes wrong. Well, I saw you throw that dirt in it.
Yeah. It's not, oh, let me just fix that for you. It's, I'm sorry, but you're kind of abusing the system at this point.
Yeah.
And that leads me back to the modern day of putting dirt in the soup, which is the whole thing of how customers have so much power now.
Yeah.
They have a big voice.
Yeah.
They can practically change things. I mean, this is kind of unrelated, but it's related. So the Sonic the Hedgehog trailer released recently, and myself included, was completely irate with the way the character was portrayed.
Outrage.
The studio instantly said they're remodeling the character.
No way. They're changing it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a little bothered by. Let's talk about movies for a moment.
Very quickly.
I'm a little, no, this relates.
Okay.
This relates to how much.
It's about the dollar.
How much should we expect companies to bend to our will?
Even our own companies,
Because I feel like people can be ridiculous.
Their opinions stink sometimes.
Their opinions stink sometimes. And when you get to this online outrage culture, it's really frustrating because people can see a minute and a half of something and decide that the 2 hours are terrible. And the company then reinforces that by then going and changing something. Or the company suffers, or the artist suffers, or the work suffers, the jobs suffer because something then doesn't continue because, well, it got trashed on the internet, so now it's dead. So here's something that sticks in my craw. Ghostbusters. Lady Ghostbusters was a great movie. But the moment the trailer came out, everybody lost their minds. I know you didn't like it. I don't even care about that. People are allowed to not like movies. The problem is, in this outrage culture, our immediate instinct is to go complain on the internet.
Yeah,
if we complain,
you gotta go guerrilla
loud enough and long enough, maybe we'll get some cool stuff. And companies are then in a position to have to encourage that because, otherwise we're going to trash them till the day we die and take them out.
I'll throw this at you, and it's not necessarily a diss. It's just an observation. In a way, and I'm not comparing anything for the severity of it, it's just like movements. It's almost seemingly like movements are the new way to complain. And in some way, it's helpful, but again, it's one of those things that could also be abused.
Complaining on Twitter is not a movement. It can be part of a movement. It does not exist you're not making the world a better place by complaining at the cashier about the cashier at the grocery store and tagging the company trying to get a $20 gift certificate. You're not making the world a better place. People think they're raging against the machine and doing good service
And that's my point.
by raging on the internet or yelling at a customer service person they have on the phone. When those things, while on the outside, on the margins, you have the bell curve, there are those times when that will get the CEO's attention, that will get you that $20 discount, that'll get you free stuff, whatever. What's the cost of that? And what would be more effective?
And that's my point of how this ideal of the customer is always right needs to be modified. Because everything right now is too easy. And as an entrepreneur, especially if you're a small business, all it takes is one big review, and it could totally kill everything. And so I think there needs to be some type of retooling and re-education. But the surprising thing is, I believe that it can happen on the individual level as far as the businesses are concerned, because all of you out there have the power to make your own rules of how you conduct business. I have some friends of mine that state exactly how they do business. And when they get confronted with someone who wants to, ring the alarm, oh, I'm sorry, did you read everything that you agreed to? It says exactly how I work, how I do this, how I do payments, how I handle service, how, everything is completely spelled out to the letter. It takes away the power, and at that point, it repositions the authority back to the vendor while still giving you the ability to provide good service.
Yes, and that is an excellent point for a takeaway for entrepreneurs listening to this, because you need to be very explicit.
Very.
In multiple locations.
Multiple modalities.
In multiple modalities about your policies about various things. And if you get I'd say even one, but if you're getting multiple emails or calls or something about something, and you're like, it's right there, then it's not clear. That is an indication that it's not clear. One rando raising a fuss might be one. But if you are getting the same thing over and over and over again, that means, I would contend, that there's a flaw in your messaging.
I agree with that like 50%.
The one case is debatable, but if you get it multiple times, that means there are more people who were frustrated by that who just didn't say anything.
Or it could be that there's more people trying to find ways to break it. Now, I like that's why I said I can 50% agree with you, but there's always someone who can try to find the way to say, my interpretation of XYZ doesn't really fit your definition, and then you're playing, policy tag, and that's just bull.
Well, or you can get some legal advice on that point.
Or you can just give them their money back and tell them bye.
Which is, I think, a good thing. It's not usually going to be worth fighting someone
Absolutely.
on that, because then they can just go and complain about you
and just throw the review up.
It's much better to just give them a good experience, really be willing to take a hard look at your process. Like, is there something that could have been clearer? Get that information from the person. Is there something that could have been clearer? But still give them their money back. If they were scamming you and just wanted the information, fine. It's take that as an indication that you are coming up in the world. You're moving on up on the east side to the deluxe apartment. To the east side? On the east side? In the east side?
To the east side.
To the B side? To a deluxe apartment.
Wow.
In the sky. You're moving on up. You finally got a piece of the customer complaint pie.
Ugh.
Fish no fried.
No, not today. Not here. Not now. Not never.
Why must you stomp on my joy?
No, that stays in the past. That stays back there. There's some things I don't mind resurrecting, and that ain't it.
But so moving on. One of the articles that I want to link to in the show notes, youropinionstinks.com or the description area on youtube.com, is how to complain and get results. This is a WikiHow article. I like WikiHow. I could do without the humongous pictures, because that's like a selling point. It's like how to do anything with pictures, but it's always like there was one article.
royalty-free picture that
like
just is weird.
Some weird picture, and the guy had a weird like soul patch, and it's
The grooviest tutorial ever.
or it's just a big, huge picture taking up 90% of your screen of someone's hands just touching fingers and that.
The shaking hands across the screen.
Yeah, it's
picture.
just, I don't know.
The professional hand shaking the common man hand.
I feel like perhaps there could be a better way to incorporate imagery instead of just taking up real estate with big hand and goatee
No,
pictures.
you gotta have SEO. You gotta have SEO.
But anyway, the article itself is fantastic, and I want to touch on 2 points.
Okay.
No, I want to start with this other one first, now that I think about it. Because, this show's aimed at entrepreneurs, and the Federal Trade Commission has a Solving Consumer Problems page. And I think this is really good for everyone to go to and read through, like, are you protecting your business in these ways? If someone comes at you trying to do these things, are you protected? And do you know how to address someone's problems in a way that keeps you protected, keeps your business protected, but also serves a consumer well and resolves the matter as quickly as possible? So all of us entrepreneurs also buy things. So I think it's helpful for us to think about serving our clients and customers well, but also in thinking about how we move through the world in B2B communications and B2C communications. So please consult the FTC link that we have to do a little test on evaluate your business and how it stacks up to if there's a Better Business Bureau complaint against you, or if they write a letter to you, what's your protocol for that? Do you have a process for that will do your best to leave the person feeling good about the transaction within reason? That doesn't take up too much of your time, and leaves you feeling like you've learned from it. You've tightened up your messaging and website and help area and all of that. And then if the person just still isn't happy and you've given them their money back and they still want to rant about it, you've done all you can do. Then you just part ways respectfully and keep it continue.
Yep.
So since we are also consumers, I'd like to make a case that there is a way to deal with customer service people, with vendor representatives, with anyone who has displeased you, that is perhaps more effective than just ranting on Twitter.
Get a lightsaber.
No, not a lightsaber.
Woo.
No,
Woo.
no, nothing. No, nothing violent.
Woo.
No.
Oh,
So
I tried.
back to this WikiHow article, how to complain and get results. I think every person should read it because I think it's very good. There are 2 points I want to hit on. 1, smile. This cannot be overstated. You can never smile too much. People will respond more favorably to someone who is smiling. You are guaranteed to get a kinder, gentler response when you use this strategy. Now read the other one and then we can maybe debate it because I don't know how you're going to feel about these The other point I wanted to point out, don't get emotional. Don't go on and on about how angry this incident has made you. Don't raise your voice or make angry gestures. The key to actually getting what you want out of the situation is to get the person who can help you on your side. If you're acting threatening, the person will be far less likely to want to give you what you want. So I want to make a case for those being very important because unfortunately those two things together tend to be seen as weakness. I'm not going to let this customer, this vendor, fill in whatever blank you want to, walk all over me. I pay your salary. I do, and just get all uppity about it.
That's a bit excessive.
But that's the attitude. It's like, if you're smiling and if you're not getting angry, then you are being weak. And I want to challenge that perspective. Because there is a way that we are not taught. We are not taught how to deal with our emotions in the first place in a healthy way. And we're not taught how to express them in a healthy way. And we're not taught how to get what we want without screwing up everyone's day. You don't need to send a customer service person to the bathroom to cry. I have done that in my past. Like, someone was being so relentless to me years ago. I was so drained from the interaction. I went to the bathroom and I cried. And I've talked to many other people who've done the same thing. Was it really worth what you got from that interaction to make a person feel like crap? Was it really worth the $10-20 off? Was it really worth them saying they're going to get your manager and you get a coupon? Is it really worth that to get what you want when they're not even the one who did it to you?
So,
from an entrepreneur, one more point, from an entrepreneur's perspective, especially B2B, where you're the customer and you have a representative from that company, I've watched this too. You berate that person and berate that person. You're not getting what you want. You had this contract. It should have been this. It should have been that. How flexible do you think that person is going to be with you after a while? After a while, they're not going to want to do anything for you. They're not going to give you any leverage. They're not going to want to work with you on anything. They're going to start pawning you off. You will start getting less valuable service than you were before. Had you worked that a little better and gotten them on your side.
So here's where I'll just throw in my 2 cents on this, because I feel like this goes a little bit beyond the scope, but
What you're gonna say?
No.
What we're talking about?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Here's why.
Okay.
The whole walk in another man's shoes, I can appreciate that, because, you know, the whole golden rule to treat people how you want to be treated, I can work with that. The reality of it is that you're not an example for someone that doesn't see your actions. So it's not to say that you shouldn't be whatever the article suggests or anything like that. I think that that's the way everyone in an ideal world could get along. The reality of it is not everybody is listening to this show, which they should. Not everybody is reading these types of articles, which they should. And not everybody is paying attention to the common way to interact in a transaction, which society-wise is going to be really hard to defeat.
It's not a reason not to do it.
No.
Because it's hard.
No. I'm not saying for anyone listening not to act in this way.
Okay.
I'm saying that the expectation to go beyond them, reality-wise, there should be an understanding that just because you're acting in kind, that that's going to be reciprocated to you. For someone who's never met you or never interacted with you, it's no different than the person that anonymously buys something from you from your website and goes through every single measure that they can in order to refund or get something beyond the refund. My point to this is, yes, it does help to know how to work with others if you're on the consumer side, but have the expectation that behavior is not necessarily universal.
No, it being universal is not necessary for one to hold themselves to a standard to always act that way.
I'm not saying that someone shouldn't. I'm not saying someone shouldn't act in kind. Mm-hmm. The expectation is that you should not just expect to receive that in kind. I
guess I'm a little unclear on what you're saying is the problem.
I'm not saying it's a problem to do it. I'm saying managing expectations should go along with it.
Whose expectations?
Well, obviously the person who's taking the advice, person that's listening to the show.
So me managing my expectations about how well this will go over, about how well I will get what I want.
How someone else will act to you, regardless of how you act to someone else.
I would ask them, what's your goal?
Well,
because
what was your goal on this?
Often I think a person's goal in venting on Twitter or venting at a customer service person or venting at a vendor representative is to vent.
And in that, the question...
And then secondarily to get something. They don't know what that something is, which is a flaw of approaching this person in the first place. But they just they're angry and they want someone to treat them nicely and say, I'm sorry. And they need a power win. They need, they're angry. They're tired.
Violated.
They've been violated. They've been struggling with this website for half an hour, and they want to yell at somebody about it. I'm just saying that's not okay. I think that's the larger point of saying that's just not okay.
I agree. It's not okay.
But I think most people don't realize that's what they're doing.
I would agree with that.
So we'll end it with this article.
All right.
3 reasons difficult customers are good for business. By Nicole Leinbach-Rail. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Nicole. And I just want to highlight one point from here. Difficult customers introduce businesses to their own weaknesses.
I can see that. That's pretty insightful.
Mm-hmm. So she says, rather than shun these customers away and try to quickly dismiss them from your responsibilities, embrace what they have to say. Truly listen and let them know you have done just that, helping to ensure them that you care about what they have to say and want to improve upon your future efforts so that what they experienced will not happen again.
And at that point, you're providing great customer service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can work with that.
And arguably, it gets at the core of the customer is always right. Like, if I leave feeling like I was heard, I feel like I was right, even if the person knows I was so wrong.
Yeah. I can work with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we'll leave it there, Timothy.
Okay. So, thank you as always for watching and listening. YouTube, alert, subscribe, alert. You know the routine. And if you're on iTunes or anywhere you listen to podcasts, subscribe and make sure you get it going directly to your device. I am Tim.
I'm Tanisha. And remember, opinions are not facts. Do your research and have fun in the fight.